course, that email was from Virginia. We love it, but it could be some of my kin people, and I just don't know. But thank you for writing. I'll call you later. Welcome back, everybody, to Your Questions, Your Money. We're here to answer your questions. 877-249-9626. The email address, again, is feedback@foxbusiness.com. The focus is small business this hour. But Tom is on the line from Minnesota. Tom, ask away.
The question I have is, thanks for having me on, first of all. The question I have as a small business owner is I use one of my biggest assets for where I borrow the money from, which is my home. And I think a lot of small businesses do, which one of the callers earlier were talking about. But what I'm looking at is why not that with working with the Treasury and the federal government and the banking system, which we kind of have already, is that with the interest rate being at a lower rate for homeowners, whether it's at 4%, why not do it down to 2% or 1% and work margins and give vouchers to the banks that we already have money that they owe us, like Citigroup, City Financial, that kind of a situation? That would be the first part of my question, I guess, is why can't something like that be implemented into something?
Tom, the first part of your question, that's going to cost everyone else a ton more money, because the difference between what that mortgage really costs and the 2% or the 4% that our lovely government wants to provide is paid for by someone. And that someone is everyone else getting loans, which is going to create higher costs not only on home mortgages but on small business and entrepreneurial loans. So there's a landslide that's going to occur as a result of that.
As soon as you do that, then banks are out there loaning money to anybody with no credit checks. You've got your next bubble on your hands, and the next one will be uglier than this one.
You don't really think there's going to be another credit borrowing related bubble?
If you allow me to be the Fed chairman, I can create one for you in about 6 months. I'd be happy to do it. But basically, you've got to do credit work. You've got to do credit checks. You can't just loan money around because the government thinks it's a good idea.
But as soon as the government begins to back that money, then they're going to loan to anybody, just like they did when the government was pushing for everyone to be able to own a home. The exact same thing is going to happen again. Banks are going to lower their standards. We're going to see another bubble, and it's already starting to happen in the prime markets.
And your point is exactly on the mark. And what you're talking about there is simply a transfer of wealth from this side of the street to the other side of the street. What this country needs, this goes back to your very first question, has America changed? America hasn't changed. It's the entrepreneurial spirit. It's like Sal, who's taking basically nothing and then creating something new out of it, creating wealth there. That is what America's about. Transferring it from one side of the street, from the haves to the have-nots, doesn't create any new wealth for the country, and that's what it's all about.
And we need to start celebrating people like Sal, because they're taking a risk. They're putting their behind on the line here. And, you know, working in a cubicle is kind of like being stuck in a bathroom with Senator Larry Craig in the stall next door. And people are jumping out of that environment and going to something that you can create your own stability.
But I want to jump in here, though, because starting a business and running your own business is not for everybody. I like sitting in a cubicle across from Tracy Burns. I like working for business. Now, I've worked for great people my entire career, but I like the security of that job, and I'm not good at managing people. That's my problem. So it's not for everybody.
That's awesome, because she knows exactly, Dagan knows exactly what it is she wants to do. And when you get a fire in your behind and you know you want to create a product, I knew I wanted to open a tanning bed last week because I love to tan and I'll be buying your products. So, you know, I knew that was going to happen. She knows what she wants. So you just go for it once you know what it is you're good at and what you're comfortable with.
And some people like to be the person that works for an entrepreneur. You can't do it all by yourself. Some people like to have a star they can follow behind that's got energy, and that makes a team. But exactly, it's figure out yourself, do what works for you, but do something. And don't wait. Don't wait for someone else.
Some entrepreneurs, no offense to Salvatore, but they can be wingnuts, and you have to be careful who you end up working for, because
I take that
they work on their own because they can't keep a job at a company.
Nobody said entrepreneurs are normal. Entrepreneurs are people that look at the normal way and they say, no freaking way. I am not going to do this. Nobody's going to tell me when to go to work, what to wear, or when to go home at night.
It's so funny. You know, I've heard this over and over again, and I've done all the sales myself. And I'll never forget this one sales appointment that I went on, and it happened to be with Duty Free. And in Duty Free, they don't generally take on unknown or unestablished brands. And here I am walking in, and the senior people said it was so refreshing to see somebody walk in and just be themselves and just sell
Even
their
if you're a
product.
wingnut.
So even if you're a wingnut.
This is the last frontier for troublemakers.
Yeah.
Entrepreneurship. Exactly.
And you get paid for it. All right, we
So
got to
again-
take a call. On the phone is Bill from Texas. Any wingnuts in Texas, Bill?
No, a lot of rednecks maybe. But
Nothing wrong with rednecks.
Right.
Nothing wrong with rednecks.
back when we had an air base here, we had a lot of wing nuts, but they took them all away from us.
What's your question, sir?
You Fox guys are great. Rutledge, I'm siding up with you and Danny.
Yes.
If you guys want to cuss, go ahead on. We're talking $1 trillion. I believe a guy ought to be allowed a word or three for $1 trillion foul up. Like, oh please, throw $1 trillion up in the air and run out from under it.
What's
We're
your
going to be just fine.
I'm with you, Bill.
What's your
Rutledge,
question?
You hang in there. What the question is, I own a radio station in Lubbock, Texas, hometown of Buddy Holly. I've noticed that radio, print, everything is going in the tank. Any ideas for a bailout for an old man that likes to listen to rock and roll music? Any new besides satellite? That's a little too pricey for me. What's going on?
Hey, Scott, what do you say?
Scott, you listening to
Me,
radio
okay.
out in Atlanta?
I'm sorry. Yeah, I think the big issue, with radio and some of the traditional things right now, first of all, on the radio side, the people who listen to rock and roll right now and the rock music are primarily young people. The older people are listening to talk radio. They're listening to Fox on their satellite radio. As far as the traditional print media and other things, obviously everything is going online at this point. And I think, again, this gets back down to entrepreneurs allocating capital. You were talking about the wingnuts, Dagan. The good thing about entrepreneurship and wingnuts is generally when the idea dies, capital doesn't get allocated to it anymore, and you just let it go a natural death. Something that's going to be a lot more productive will take its place.
Yeah, Bill, I made a buttload of money in radio, owning radio stations, looking at the local market, and switching from a country to a gospel or a country to a new age or something. You can pick up revenues, but this is not a market where the revenues are going your way. So this is a survival market. In radio business, you have gross margins of 45, 50, 60%. You need to get at the costs right now and just hunker down in there because the advertising market's shrinking up. Or as they say in Texas where you live, it's like trying to make money right now is like trying to make a pig sing. It's a lot of work. The pig don't like it. And when you're all done, the singing is not so good either.
All right, on that note, call us, 877-249-9626, or email feedback@foxbusiness.com. Tracy is speechless with laughter. More laughter and answers to your questions straight ahead.